And Celia, it's great to be here on a very, very cold morning, at least where I am, probably where you are. Seems to be across the country. We are at about 9 or 10 degrees. Last time I looked, it was 9 below, but the winds have picked up from a chill factor. The winds have picked up. So I was out at 4 o'clock this morning, shoveling we got just over a foot of snow, and man, I thought my hands were freezing. It was cold, that chill factor, but it was warmer then than it is right now. The temperature's been dropping pretty steadily here this morning, but it's cold. Man, it's just cold. The upside is it's so cold that the snow's nice and light, so that was the good thing. Anyway, and I'm supposed to go downtown today to hear Ben Bernanke speak and get involved in some Q&A with him. I belong to an organization called the American Economic Association, and they're having their annual meeting in Philadelphia, and it's, Ben's going to speak, which will probably be public, and then the Q&A will probably be private. So it's planning on going. Don't know if I will or not, but we'll see. I'm not even sure why I was planning on going, to tell you the truth. I got talked into it. Anyway, 866-300-9298. It's Friday. We try to do Rapid Fire Friday, though we've been taking an awful lot of questions, which has been kind of nice. We've taken a lot of questions yesterday. We're going to do the same today. If you've got questions about your personal stewardship, if you want to weigh in on some economic issues, some personal economic issues, some Obamacare, certainly we'll be happy to hear your comments. I'd like to know from you, what about this economy in 2014? What are you expecting? And what has it been like in 2013 for your centers of influence, your circle of friends and such? Has their standard of living gone up, gone down, or what has that situation? Speaking of Obamacare, by the way, 866-300-9298 if you want to queue your call up. Speaking of Obamacare, Houston Hospital did not make payroll for about 120 people. It may have been more than that. I don't remember. But about 120 people. They're blaming, of course, the contractor that was in charge. The Obamacare contractor was blamed for the slow Medicare payments to the hospital, which prevented the hospital in Houston from being able to make payroll. So my question was, it was 150 employees, by the way. So my question was, when I sent it out on Twitter and put it on my Facebook page, is this a one-time deal, or is this the beginning of what is yet to come across the country? So could it be possible that the contractor was only bad for one Houston hospital? I don't think so. I think this has to be impacting many, many hospitals. Obviously, this particular hospital running on a very, very tight cash flow that they couldn't make it without their reimbursement on Medicare. That tells you a lot about the strength of that hospital. So anyway, it'll be interesting. It was about $3 million short in their payments. So I would assume that it may be impacting some other hospitals, but hopefully they have enough cash reserves to be able to get through some of this. So we may not hear a lot about it. The question is, if it happens 2 months in a row, if it's 60 days, if it's 30 days and it goes to 60 and the 60 goes to 90 and the 90 goes to 120, what kind of impact's that going to have? I'll tell you what kind of impact it's going to have. It's probably going to lead to the closing of some doors, because the problem is not getting some sort of temporary aid in order to keep the doors open. The problem is how it's going to impact. Will they ever catch up from a cash flow standpoint? Interesting. Chrysler, by the way, post a 6% rise in sales. Chrysler, it's a good thing the U.S. Taxpayers bailed Chrysler out, because as of yesterday, they are now an Italian-owned company. Fiat bought, I think, another 40% of their stock, making them the largest stockholder now. This is officially an Italian-run company, Chrysler. When you buy a Chrysler, it will be like buying a Fiat. So the tax-paying dollars that we use to bail them out in the UAW basically went to make the company right so that an Italian company could buy it. So much for that bailout, keeping all these, saving the U.S. auto industry. We're down now to Ford and Chevy. And by the way, it's I haven't seen the numbers yet. They're coming out in a little bit on Ford and GM. But it looks like Ford far outsold Toyota in the amount of cars here in the U.S. That's very exciting news, particularly since Ford never took any of the government money. And you got to give them a lot of credit. I think it's an amazing turnaround story that nobody seems to care much about because it's politically incorrect to care a lot about it. 866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. Yesterday, the indices all in negative territory. The Dow closed down 135 points. As a matter of fact, U.S. stocks, as they fell, it's the first time we've had a negative start to any year since 2008. Let me see. What was 2008? I'm not saying that there's a correlation between 2008's first day being negative and what happened in 2008. It's kind of interesting, though, something to chew on. I don't think it's very meaningful. I don't think it means much of anything. But nevertheless, the Dow was down 135. The NASDAQ got clobbered. They were down 33, primarily due to a downgrading of Apple stock that is in the NASDAQ, and that hurt the NASDAQ. S&P down 16. But, it's the first day of the year. The big question for me and the big question for you in the markets as the markets go is, can the enthusiasm that we had in 2013 carry over to 2014? Will it carry over, or is reality going to set in? And reality is out there. It just hasn't sunk in or set in to those on Wall Street yet. So maybe this will be it. And so, again, the big issue is how long will investor enthusiasm last into 2014? If you look at just the numbers yesterday, it looks like it didn't last very long, but it's one day. It means nothing. There was a fair amount of volume, so there was some conviction, a little bit of conviction on this downside, but it's one day. We've got the first trading day of the month. We got the whole month ahead of us, and I don't think we really get a good feel for what's going to happen in the year until we get past April 15th or so. So anyway, we'll watch that. On the commodity front, we see oil slipping, which is good news for us at the pumps, I guess. I mean, one would think that at some point in time we're going to see lower gas prices. I don't know, but it's at 95.10 right now. Crude oil's at 95.10. Gold had a very good day. Well, not a very good day. Gold had an up day yesterday, 12.28 for gold. Silver over the $20 mark, and it hung in there over 20, even though it ended up finishing somewhat negative or positive, but is now starting today and somewhat negative, but it's 20.08 right now. Heating oil's up. Natural gas down, by the way, to 428. I can't imagine with all this cold weather that we're seeing natural gas to drop much lower. I'm surprised it's still not up to the 455 mark, but natural gas down to 428. It's good for me because I happen to heat my house with natural gas. And the chill index is, 10 below right now. The wind is blowing and the temperature is about 9 degrees. So I'm all for natural gas coming down, and that's where it is right now. The agricultural commodities, corn is up, wheat is down, cotton's down, live cattle up, so mixed bag as far as commodities go. We are going to get to the phones, 866-300-9298. Soon as we get to the break, we're going to get to the phones. We're going to stay with the phones. You might want to queue your call up, 866-300-9298. So one of the big questions has to be, what is going to be on tap for Obamacare as we head into the year? One of the interesting parts, the Little Sisters of the Poor, a Catholic organization that deals with these nuns, deal primarily with the poor, mostly the elderly. It looks like their appeal to go against Obamacare is going to hold some water, it looks like right now. As a matter of fact, this may be a huge issue. It is a big issue. They won their first round, and they are not going to be required to have Obamacare with birth control. So they are going to continue to fight for their employees and such. But nevertheless, this is a reversal. This is a reversal on the court, and it's very, very interesting. So we're going to watch that closely. But right now, a little bit of a victory against Obamacare as it continues to fall apart, in my opinion. The World Bank came out with its estimate for 2014. They're saying that GDP is likely to be at 3%. The World Bank is not usually right, but nevertheless, that's the deal, and that's the consensus from the economists that they've surveyed. They're looking at, by the end of 2014, a 3% GDP growth. When was the last time we saw a 4% GDP growth? Does anybody remember the last time we had a quarter of 4% GDP? Well, it happened to be in 2011, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was 2011. Don't remember which quarter it was, but 2011 was the last time we saw anything near 4%. And that was a legitimate 4% because it was before, obviously, the recalculation of GDP that we got this July. So it was a little bit more accurate. I will remind everybody, and I think we're probably going to see GDP growth right around 2.6%, give or take, this year at best. And I think that you've got to keep in mind, I don't know what the number is anymore, but before they changed the calculating method and what they were including in GDP, which nobody is talking about still, so aggravating. But before they did that, I said it's got to be 2.5%. We've got to have GDP 2.5% just to maintain the crummy economy that we have. I don't know what it is now, but I'm guessing it's 3.2, somewhere in that neighborhood. Trying to get a handle on it, and I haven't been able to. But I'm guessing it's at least 3%. So let's be conservative and say it's 3%. So 3% means we're doing nothing. Anything below 3% means we're going backwards because you've got to account for population growth. We're not doing that. So the dollar's falling again against the yen. It's going to be interesting because the Fed is speaking. Ben Bernanke, as I said, that I think I'm going to be attending. We'll see what the weather does this afternoon in Philadelphia. So with some Q&A, and everybody's going to be watching that very closely. I'm not sure. Ben Bernanke is finished. He's on his way out. Janet Yellen will be our Fed chairman this month. And but nevertheless, UK house prices jumped to 1.4%. That's good for UK, yet this is a very interesting number, and I'm only going to bring this up because it's interesting. Then we're going to get to the calls, 866-300-9298. But the Eurozone lending to the private sector has plunged to a 20-year low. Data from the European Central Bank showed Friday suggesting that the region will struggle to get the anticipated recovery in full gear. In other words, the banking sector is not lending to the private sector. It is absolutely plunged. This is not good for any economy, particularly when you see it at a 20-year low. It's bad enough that you hit a low that we saw early 2009, late 2008, but a 20-year low, that is huge, and we're going to have to watch that because it is going to impact our economy. Financial Issues, I'm Dan Celia. We're going to get back right to the phones after this.